Get started. Good morning. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 27 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Making the Most of Your Craft Beverage Membership Club, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Virginia SBDC Craft Beverage Assistance Program Manager, Chris Van Orden.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this conversation about making the most of your membership club. As Sheila mentioned, my name is Chris Van Orden, and I'm the manager of the Craft Beverage Assistance Program at the Virginia SBDC at George Mason University. The CBA program is designed to provide industry-specific technical assistance to Virginia's craft beverage producers. So today's program will be a free-flowing conversation about the strategies for maximizing the impact of your membership club. If you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the Q&A function here. Rather than the comments, Q&A is just easier on our end for visualizing, and we'll do our best to either answer all the questions either during or after the webinar. So I am very excited to welcome back Janine Aquino, the president of Aquino Baron Consulting. With over 30 years of experience in the craft beverage industry, Janine has deep firsthand expertise that she's offered to share today. So I'll be asking Janine to give us some of her thoughts on how Virginia's breweries, wineries, and cideries can set themselves up for success with their membership clubs. Welcome, Janine.
Welcome. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to start with a question that's sort of philosophical before we dive into the nitty-gritty here. What makes a good membership club?
So I think that right now is really a critical time as we're seeing lower numbers of people coming into tap rooms and tasting rooms. A good membership club is engaging. It's rich with benefits. It is very streamlined, easy, and I can go into a little bit more detail what exactly that means, but perks are important. It builds a community of people that will always keep coming back. So there's a whole host of factors, but I would say the number one is a good amount of perks.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's lots of different things that can go into a club, and we're going to dive into all those in a second. But overall, people need to be able to feel like they're getting some value out of this.
Yes,
right? This is beyond just transactional. So, with that in mind, what are some of the forms that membership clubs can take? Like, what are some of the benefits? And is there any major difference when it comes to producer categories?
Sure. So, you have your traditional in-person clubs where you join and your guests, your customers are coming in, and there's pickup parties and there's different events that you have that are specific to club members. Online shipping clubs, I think, are just as important because you'll have a lot of tourists coming in that really like the beverage, whether it's wine, beer, cider, and they want to support the local place that they're in. So if you allow an online shipping component, I feel like what I'm seeing is you may not be able to offer the same perks for the shipping club, but you can certainly develop those perks just for people who want their product shipped to them. Obviously, there's always going to be a hybrid. So if, for instance, that person joins as a shipping member, and they come and they frequent maybe 4 times a year or a few times a year, that they can actually get some of the benefits that a person regularly coming to the whether it's brewery, cidery, winery, that comes to. So it's really just those types. You know, you've got your shipping club, you've got your in-person, and you can sometimes have a hybrid model.
And how do you feel about the difference between the sort of limited clubs where we might say, hey, only 100 members and there's the exclusivity element versus
Yep.
the open clubs? That, can you talk a little bit about that distinction?
So, you know, when I'm looking at a club, I'm looking for, you know, how many shipments a year they're going to get, or how many in-person quarterly pickups. Sometimes places will do twice a year, 4 times a year. And so within that, you have to kind of consider, you know, how much product they're getting during that, in that time frame. So I think it's important that if you have some reserve wines or some really special high-end brews or ciders, you can develop a higher end limited club, because you want the diversity if you have that ability, because that's obviously going to command more money. It's going to showcase that you have more to offer than just the standard types of beverages. So I think that there is a place for it. And I think keeping it limited also is that, you know, you want what you can't get type of club. And you can also limit the amount of members. You can limit the amount of product that you're offering. It helps production, so they don't feel that they have to mass produce so much wine or beer or cider, that they can be a little bit more artistic and make those cool limited products that they can offer to that customer that wants to spend a little bit more money.
Yeah, I like your point. I think it's really important to reflect that this needs to match a company's capabilities, right?
Yes, yes.
And get into trouble if you're promising, you know, an open club and you wind up getting really great enrollment, and all of a sudden you're on the hook for stretching something.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're, you know, whatever is begging or robbing Peter to pay Paul, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Well, you don't want to
Exactly.
short your distributor, or you don't want to short other, right? It becomes very difficult. And that's, I think, an area where you do see one of those distinctions between wineries and breweries. Breweries, theoretically, you can flip on the switch. Obviously,
Yes.
it might take a little bit longer, but wine, you know, a producer may only have X number of cases of that, you know, limited release that's been aging for a long
Yeah.
time. So I think
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That's absolutely correct. And I think that one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of places in the craft brewery, in the craft world, beverage world, is if their DTC traffic is low and not as many people are coming in, the first thing they think about is wholesale. Let me go ahead and wholesale the product. And when you do that, you obviously are going to get less money, and wholesale is not always the answer, because you have to produce and sell quite a bit to even cover margins sometimes. So building a rich club avoids you losing money. You're actually, not only are you making the same as you would if you just sold it out of your tap room or tasting room, but you're building a clientele that can sustain you through times of where it's not great traffic coming in, or it's rainy outside, or you know, the weather is bad. Like today, it's rainy where I am. But it mitigates against all of that. So immediately going into this wholesale mode is something that they may want to consider building a club first before you go into that wholesale route, just so that you're not thinking that you have to give away so much and get very little money coming in.
Yeah, it's true. The jump from any version of direct to consumer DTC sales, all the way to wholesale. I mean, you're playing a very different game, and it's not something to take lightly, no matter what product you're making. And obviously there are differences there, but exhausting those high margin channels, finding ways, there's all of the benefits. And I feel like, this is something that we could have set the stage with if we wanted to start the discussion here, but the benefits are developing those relationships with those people who feel, those connections to you, but also being able to know in advance where else do you get to know that the product is spoken for before you package it.
Right.
That's really, really helpful. Everybody who's in here today probably has had that experience of stressing, of saying, oh no, we're going to be short on this order, or we're reaching the sort of threshold where we have too much product on hand. So being able to dial in, minimize that waste or opportunity lost. So I think that's great. So that kind of leads to the question of like how companies can use their clubs to drive towards whatever their organizational goals are. It could be anything from, midweek tasting room performance, trying to increase the rate of depletions, trying to, get more new customers in. What are some of the ways that the clubs can kind of help, that people can use their clubs to support their organizational goals?
Yeah. So, it all stems to me with, it would be great to do this when it's the downtime, when that's would be the ultimate situation where it's downtime. You can sit down with your maker, your winemaker, your brewmaster, your cider maker, and that person is critical, or that team is critical in figuring out what you're supposed to do for the rest of the year, because that's the time where you want to do something with your club if you can. So you want to start out that way first, because you want to make sure that you're producing the product based on your club members and their needs and the type of club that you have. So for instance, if you have I'm just going to go to wine. If you have a red club, a white club, a mixed club, it's really important to identify how many of each of these types of people that you have. And if you allow substitutions, that could actually hurt you. And so that's a big struggle I see is people want to just be able to satisfy all their customers and give them whatever they want. But what that does is it's hard for the producer to calculate what they're supposed to be making. So, but what the clubs do is it helps. It does a lot of things. It helps drive customers to your place and a continual stream. So if you have 200 members and you're giving them the types of perks that they want, and your tasting room staff and your tap room staff have really good rapport with these people, or if you have a club manager, which would be the ultimate situation. But if you have that, those people are just going to constantly come. They're going to come all the time. They're going to bring their friends, their family when they're coming in from out of town. They're going to sign the members up. And I will say that most successful, if you look across the board of the all United States, the wineries, breweries, and the people that are most successful have the richest clubs. Because again, they're not worried about the people coming in day to day. They are more concerned about fulfilling the product that's needed for the club members. That is what they're mainly concerned about, because when you have those clubs, you're also offering special dinners, special events, and at those events, they will buy the product. It kind of it continues. It's a continual revenue stream that only exponentially will increase if you have your staff behind it, if management's behind it, and it just becomes your model. So I don't know if that answered your question, Chris, but
yeah, no, I
kind of
you touched on a lot of things there, and I on a few of those threads, because I think you're right about like your point. I thought was really insightful about the degree to which your members wind up having this direct connection with you that goes beyond the value just of their membership, right? That if it's well structured and you're kind of establishing the program perks and benefits in the kind of the right way, you're going to incentivize them towards behavior that you want to see beyond just the fact that you've got this money in hand in advance. You're going to have them coming out more often. You're going to have them bringing friends. You're going to make it easy for them to kind of evince the behaviors that you're hoping to incentivize. So if that means like, hey, we know things are really quiet on Tuesdays here. Well, you can have a members specific night where you set off a special space for them and you open some special bottles or you do whatever, right? Or if you say, we really need to get more, we want to build out this club. You say, hey, if you refer a club member who uses your unique code, you get 10% off next year, whatever, right? There's like little tiny kind of marketing type, that all of that, it can be hard to quantify just how much value you get out of these people, but they wind up bringing more and more to the organization. It becomes this sort of self-reinforcing cycle. It's when it works well, it's really amazing.
One of the things that I also I've noticed and I think is really, really important is incentivizing your staff to sell. They're your kind of your first line of offense, and that's what I call it. They are going to be your ambassadors, and if you can get some incentives to them, there are certain incentives that I've seen work better than others. Just giving them wine and beer. There's only so much of that they're going to want. There's other incentives that are much more fruitful and they will go after it. I've just seen this, revising a bunch of clubs that I've done already. When you incentivize the staff a certain way, it all of a sudden becomes a race. They may have like a little competition over the weekend, whoever sells the most gets something. So they become kind of your ambassadors, besides the fact that they're selling the day-to-day items on your menu. Now they're selling a club that obviously they're going to make something from it, but also now again, you're exponentially increasing your membership, allowing for continued revenue.
Yeah, it's very important, this is something that anybody who's worked in restaurants knows, upselling, getting, if there are items that you're particularly trying to push, just making it clear to your staff what you want them to be driving towards. If anyone's buying a case of wine, right? If they buy a full case when they come out, they should be, your staff should know, hey, person buys a full case of wine, that's a target that you should be having. If you could have say like, hey, for only $5 more, you get to join the club, right? Those kinds of little things, keeping an eye out for that, and making it as easy as possible, both for them to make that sale and then for the people to register. So that kind of leads me to the next question that I had for you about the sort of infrastructure that a producer should have in place to kind of stand up their membership club. Like how should they equip their staff to make that sale, or equip their customers to join their clubs? What are some of the things that they need to have in place?
Yeah, so I mean, a good CRM, a good POS system that handles club would be really, really good to have. When you're first starting out, you may not think about the POS system and a club component. So there are other ways that you can do that. And unfortunately, it's through like Excel spreadsheets and other means. But if you have the ability to get a POS system that has that club component, it'll help with releases. It will help with keeping all of the customer records and the things that they're buying. So you get to identify, you can just pull up a record and see. So you do want to build that, whether it's again, like an Excel spreadsheet, or you're building it through your POS. And then there are kind of different other components, like an enrollment form that has all of the records of a person, where they live, their email address, all of the things that I think that while it's in the POS, you have a hard copy of some of this, and it's, under lock and key because it probably will contain credit card information. So I think that that's important. Sometimes I've seen people have a system where they just put it right into the POS. And if something were to happen, you don't really have a hard copy. So it's really important to have some kind of a hard copy.
Yeah, I think the infrastructure for this kind of thing, it's an investment, of course, right? Anything in that vein. But if you're already investing staff time to do this, and if you're going to do it at the scale that makes sense for you, I really think it's a worthwhile investment to have a proper system in place, but both to cover your back, right? Just saying like, hey, we want to make sure that we're doing this in a way where we don't have a spreadsheet that lives on one person's computer and then it dies or whatever. And, it can seem like, oh, we're not going to spend that money up front. But when you start having one person having to go through every single time, and then all of a sudden you are rooting against growing your club because it means you have to do 100 unique transactions for the next shipments and everything. And if it's all automated, if it's all built out, it becomes you sort of gain efficiencies as you grow it. So somebody asked if there were any POS or CRM, client relationship management tools that you've worked with and would recommend, Janine.
Yeah. So give me 1 second. I gotta push my dog outside. Give me 1 second.
My dog is quietly off camera right now. She's an old lady, so I'll apologize. She barks a little bit later, but
this was the beauty of working from home. So I mean, on the winery end, there's something called Wine Direct. I don't like to push one over another, so I just know that that's very popular. I also know, and then there's like the Vino Shipper component that can be integrated. So if you can use Vino Shipper as an integration, that would be great, because I work with cideries and wineries and breweries, and they like to have, if they're doing like a shipping component to their club, Vino Shipper is really a great way to, they do a lot of the work for you. But Wine Direct is good. Some people use Orderport. I find that to be a little clunky, but people do it. And as long as they can navigate through it, it's good. There's another one I think of, VinSuite. Those are the ones that I'm familiar with. Yeah.
And I will say, if you don't have a POS system yet, there are some that are out there that are particularly oriented towards the sector. And that could be, for your tasting room sales as well. So Arrived is a pretty big one that's been relatively new. A lot of the POS systems now allow for integrations from others. So if you have a POS system that you're working with, go to them and just ask, hey, what integrations, what other companies do you have integrations for that do club management, that do direct shipment? It's, if you don't have to retool everything, great. But, some are a little more closed box where they don't like to play with other things, and it may work great for tasting room, but then you have to stand up an entirely separate system elsewhere. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good to check, absolutely check with that ahead of time. If like you said, you have that ability, if you've been in business for a while and you don't have a system and there's no integration, then you just kind of have to do a little old school until you can ramp up, because that revenue coming in every month can actually help you and support a new POS system coming in.
Yeah. And so, find out what's available out there. I think if you don't have something, or you want to know what else is out there, ask some of your peers, or if you go to if you go to any annual conferences for your state or national trade associations, there'll often be vendors there. They have lots of webinars they have about what their tools can do. So it's obviously a big decision. We can have a whole discussion just on POS systems, which maybe another time. And I will say another value just of having the POS system is that it's going to force you like the system will ask you for lots of information about, how it needs to automate things. So it'll force you to think about issues that you should be thinking about, that if you're building it by scratch, you may not think about. So thinking about the rules of the road, basically, if somebody registers, what happens? Do they get a welcome email automatically? If so, great. You have to put in the options of their selection. So it forces you to think about what goes into shipments, how often the shipments happen, like when does, the things like shipping protocols or responsibilities, like who gets notified when something happens. All of that needs to get done. So having a system that requires you to put that information in is going to force you to think about the issues that you might neglect if you're just bootstrapping it. So I'm not saying everybody has to go that route. If you're small and want to do it by hand to start, that's fine. But it quickly becomes a bear if you're haven't thought through all the issues.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody kind of thinks about, at least the people I've worked with think about, what are the lowest cost options out there for a POS system. And what winds up happening is it is going to be a little bit more expensive to have a club component. However, it will save you a tremendous amount of time later on. And so if you can afford it, I would definitely go with that from the start, if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say somebody makes the decision, okay, I want to piece something together. I've come up with, the sort of rules of the road of how this is going to function. I'm trying to put in some incentives in place to, encourage the behavior I want. Now it comes down to getting people into the club, which, that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
So when a producer is looking to promote enrollment, what are some of the tools that they have at their fingertips? How do they get people in and keep them?
Yeah, so it goes back again to staff. Definitely doing a staff training, sales training anytime. The people you have initially, and anybody that comes in that's new. It's really, really important to basically have your staff as your first line of offense. Identifying customers coming in regularly, those are going to probably be really good candidates for your club. So if your staff can identify that they see somebody maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks, that would be an easy sell. Especially when there is a new release of some kind or something special that you want to offer. Sometimes places will actually make that something that's part of a club that you can only get if you're part of a club.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a good way. And it has to be something that's definitely special that you're not going to be putting in your tap room or tasting room or your cidery. So it's really your staff and your club manager, if you have one, are really the people that are going to identify and understand best who the people are that are coming into your place and offering them that option of joining the club. Because when you join the club, you're going to get these perks. You're going to get some discounts. You're going to be able to maybe meet with the producer. You might have some dinner. So it's encouraging and incentivizing them to help build your clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking to encourage, to seek out specific people. So, turning to your staff, they're the high touch people. They're going to know the best targets. Yes. And, it's still worth investing in, doing the sort of mass market, low touch versions of that. So, if you have a listserv that you write out to, if you do a monthly newsletter talking about programs,
yes,
be at the bottom, just bake it in. Great. Right. Or if there's no period, let's say if you only do it at the top of every year, giving people the run up time, making it easy to gift it for other people or whatever. On your website, you set up a QR code for every festival. So if somebody's right, all of those, you may not get a really high hit rate, but obviously that's if you're having plenty of people coming to your online store to do a direct shipment, of wine, let's say, they shouldn't be able to go through that process without knowing,
Yeah.
that's an option for them.
Exactly. And you definitely can advertise it on your website. You can advertise it when you go to different places. It's not going to be very common that you're going to have somebody that just looks at your website and then just, if they don't have any background on who you are, they probably won't join your club.
Mhm.
But it does happen. Again, I'm going to go back to staff. Getting your staff to sell it and be confident and be excited about it, and
Mhm.
having a really rich perks program that they can offer, because there's so many clubs out there that somebody walking in, just into Virginia can, be inundated with, this club and this club and this club. So why are they going to join your club?
Mhm.
It's because typically, what are they going to get for it? What are the perks that they're going to get? What's a unique perk that you offer that nobody else offers? A unique experience, and most of the time, the people that are going to purchase your shipping club are going to be friends of the people that are coming in. And so they get to hear about the wine or the beer or the cider. So, I've seen at least from what I've seen, the staff is they're the ones that do everything. And so, incentivizing them properly and putting together something really, really cool that's unique to your own place that you can offer to a customer, that's kind of a win-win.
Mhm. And you hinted at a little bit of something about the sort of different tiers too, about you may have a version of the club that's only for shipments, and
Yeah.
you don't necessarily, if you have local people, a lot of the additional value is out of the sort of fringe benefits of coming in. They get whatever, right? They get little special in-person perks that can really add up. But you may have graduated tiers, right? That doesn't have to be a one size fits all. So you might have a few options there.
Yeah.
We did have a question, a couple of questions here that I think we can address really quickly. Christina asked, how many people is too many? Or what about different levels of membership, like a tier system? So,
Yeah.
this,
Good question.
yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah. So, to answer that question, I'm going to try to be as direct, but there's a lot of moving parts there. First, you have to look at how much you can produce, how much wine, beer, or cider you can produce. And like Chris said, the beer is a little quicker, but wine is not. And you can offer shiners, but that's a choice that a winery makes. So find out how much you can produce. And, if you are a 2,000 case winery, you're probably going to be able to support a few hundred, maybe 200 or 300 wine club members. If you are a 5,000 case, you can probably do 500-600 members. So that's not a rule of thumb, but it's just kind of keeping in mind that there are people who will be coming into the winery and they will be buying wine from you or cider. But so how many is too many? It's how much you can produce, if that's your model. If you are, sometimes places will supplement with other Virginia products. Maybe they have only so much cider or beer or wine that they're going to make, and they want to showcase some really cool limited edition wines or that somebody else is producing. That can offset the challenges you may have in producing. If you're looking at between 500 and 700 members and you're doing it right, you're really doing well. That's something good. Once you start getting to the thousands, then you're more relying on that revenue coming in, and you don't have to worry as much about the people coming into your place.
Yeah, I think it's a good point about the model. right? What are you hoping to achieve here? There are, certainly more wineries than breweries, nationally, but that are basically allocation only, right? Where
Mhm.
the wine is spoken for in advance, and it either is going to club members or to select distributors for key accounts, and that's basically it. So basically, right, you have to make sure you know how this fits into your overall business model, and then the pinch points both on the production, and just think, hey, if I'm going to be doing quarterly shipments, do I have the team to successfully execute on it? So
Yeah.
there's lots of areas that things can you can start feeling a little bit of pinch, but make sure that you've got a good handle on, okay, what does success look like for us? Is this an exclusivity play, or is this, hey, we'll take as many as we can execute on? So Janine, are you still here? Hopefully. Hopefully. If anyone can hear me, hopefully we haven't lost everyone here.
I can still hear you, Chris, but Janine looks frozen.
Okay, hopefully she'll be able to jump back in. I didn't know if it was me. I will give
Should we
her.
ask, we lost her.
Yeah.
Maybe she logged out to come back in.
Yeah, hopefully she'll be able to jump back in, but I'm sure the storms are not doing
I know, right?
Actions, but
And maybe if someone could drop in the Q&A to make sure that we are still live for everyone. I think so, since we can see each other, but I don't want to assume.
Yep, heard from a few folks.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Not that I can offer much, but
yep, I will try to answer or talk on a few of the points that were raised here. So
okay, great.
So I think there were a couple of questions about when it comes to shipping, right? You can ship out of state. It's really important to know the state by state laws. It's knowing which states you can ship to from Virginia. It's not always reciprocal, which is can be a frustration. In Virginia, you might be able to bring to purchase shipped product from one state, but you can't turn around and sell a product to that state. So there are rules about all of that. I will say third-party entities like Vino Shipper, there are other ones as well. They handle all of the regulatory side of that for you. That is a big value that they add, and they also add the infrastructure to make it very easy, where they'll print the labels and they'll manage all of that. So if you are interested, you should know which markets you can sell to from Virginia, and make it sure that you're have it on your website which states you're available to, because you don't want people to be upset about that option. I will say, you may get, when it comes to clubs, you may have fewer out-of-state club members, just because a lot of clubs are based around in-person perks. So you might wind up having, that might be just more direct to consumer sales. And we're talking about e-commerce, DTC, online shipping, which is its own discussion here. That would just be something that people can pop onto your website and buy. If that's what people, you can still do that. It doesn't have to be an either or. But again, make sure that you have the capacity to do that. I think Janine is back. Hey, Janine. Hopefully, hey, Janine, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
It's you never know with Zoom, and plus the bad weather. So
I was like, okay, well, I'll
just,
yeah, so we're back. Good.
Yeah. So I was just talking a little bit about the online shipping questions. We had two people ask questions about online shipping, and I was talking a little bit about how club membership might be more oriented towards people who can visit in person. So it might be within state shipment, knowing what you can do within the state of Virginia.
Yeah.
And the interstate shipment is not always reciprocal, so you might be able to buy from Oregon but not sell to Oregon, just as for instance. But there are third-party apps that will help you with a lot of that. So
I mean, Vino Shippers, who I always go to, they do everything for you. I know there's probably a few others out there that I'm not as familiar with them, but I can at least vouch for Vino Shipper that it takes care of all of that for you. It takes care of all of the legalities that are needed for other states. They do charge for their service, but at the end of the day, if you try to do it yourself, and you'd have to go to each state and get registered. It's a lot of work. And so I think it's worth the money going to those third-party app integrations, like Vino Shipper is just one of them. Yeah.
I'll say, if you're using somebody like that, right, be strategic about it and make sure that you have a way to kind of measure that, and you're setting, as with all of these things, with clubs, with direct to consumer sales, anything the same way you would want with tasting room sales, make it very clear what parameters you're willing to work under. It may not be worth your while to ship a single bottle, right?
Yes.
Yeah. People want to do that, they can pay the pricing on top, but hey, you can say, well, we'll cover, we'll give you some discounted shipping if you buy X amount of product, or these are the ones that are available for direct. Otherwise, you have to get through clubs. You wind up spending a lot of time interfacing with customers when they're unhappy if you're not clear, and you don't set those expectations properly.
Yes, absolutely.
So, that kind of leads to a question. I'm going to jump a little bit in my order, because this leads to the question about sort of regulatory areas that people should be aware of. We talked a little bit about shipping. Are there other regulatory areas that people should be mindful of when they're establishing their membership clubs?
Not that I'm really aware of. If you're going to be shipping out of state, I mean, that's one thing. But there's no real, within Virginia laws that, not really, not that I'm aware of, Chris. I mean, I'm not that, unfortunately, I'm not the really kept up on that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, it's only for shipping out of state.
Yeah.
But there is a form. I do know, if you ship within state, at the end of the year, there are forms that have to be filled out that you have to say, how much you shipped. But that's all part of, your licensing.
Yeah, that's like getting depletions at the brewers.
Yeah, I mean, I know you just have to, in certain situations like cider and anything that's carbonated, you have to be really careful in the shipping. But I'm not aware of too many of the items that are that important for regulatory. Yeah.
The only other two that I can think of that would be related to membership clubs in general. And again, this is not specific to membership clubs. It's just, it might function a little bit differently because of the way it's set up. Advertising of discounts. You have to be careful about the language when you're talking about, discounts, the sort of 2-for-1 versus 50% off question.
Yes.
Make sure that you're the same language that you're using in-house. And then making sure that you have a mechanism for age verification.
Yes. That's on the shipping. Yeah. And that's usually, driven by UPS, FedEx, Vino Shipper. You do have to make sure that, just like if you're regularly shipping something from your place, even if it's not a membership, that you do get that verification. Yeah. And then that does lead me to one other item is when you are selling the membership, you want to, have to get the birth date and things like that. And that's something that's included on an enrollment form. So there are verifications, at least with age, that you do have to deal with.
Yeah. I think that's right. It's just making sure that your enrollment form is capturing the things so that you're covering your trail. Hey, if something ever comes up, they hit the button that says, I attest that I am of legal age. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
You did what you were supposed to do.
That's all you can do.
Yep. We had a question that came in about any idea of what the mean or median size of an average Virginia wine club membership might look like, or do you have a sense of what a normal or a healthy might be for a small to medium producer
in terms of
membership? Yeah.
You mean the number of bottles or the number of within the club?
Members and or bottles. I mean, I know that depending on the sold volume, it could vary. I mean, if we're talking
Yeah.
about quarterly versus twice a year.
Yeah. So, and hopefully I'm answering this correctly, but, there's a lot of wineries and cideries and craft breweries. The amount of members that I see that seems to be an average number that people have is at least 200 or 300, and that's on the low side. Then you get kind of like, that's more of a smaller model. And then when you start getting into like larger producers, 500 to 700 members, and then there are fair number of people that have, between 1,000 and 3,000 members.
Wow.
And those are like the larger producers. You're talking 7,000, 8,000 cases plus, 10,000 plus. So, and it's really important when you're building a club to not give away so much at each installment. And what I mean by that is, I know some clubs give 4 bottles or 6 bottles or, and it depends on frequency. Now, that all depends on frequency. So if you're looking at a quarterly club, 2 to 3 bottles a quarter is the sweet spot. When you're starting to give away 4 plus, that's a lot of bottles. You wouldn't think so. People like to drink their wine and their cider, but it's just not as popular than a 2 or 3. And the 3 bottle is the sweet, is to me the best scenario. 4 times a year. There are clubs that do twice a year, 6 bottle shipments. A lot of this has to do with infrastructure. Do you have the manpower to actually pull the wines, pack the wines, have the parties, all of that requires its own set of staffing. So it kind of goes back to, if I have 200 or 300 members, how many people do I need to do all of this? Is going to be way different than when you get to 500 or 600. And if it's in the thousands, you need a whole team of people to get it all put together. I've seen breweries do specials on growlers and different kinds of incentives, and they might do more pickup in person because they don't want to ship it. Cideries are the same way. It's anything carbonated, they want to do more in-house and then the shipping. Wine has a little bit more flexibility because if it's still wine, it doesn't have that carbonation component. You can do a lot of shipping, but there's this like fine line of how many do I give away and how many times a year do I do this. A lot of it goes back to, what are you producing? So I think that's the first spot. How much are you capable of producing? How much are you? Oh, one huge piece that we didn't talk about is the wines or the ciders or whatever it is in your wine club or your clubs. They need to be exclusive. So if you have 10 wines, and I'm just going to use wine as if you have 10 wines in your menu, those are not the 10 wines that you want to have in your club, because they need to have something that's different. So you can ramp up. You can start out with 10 wines and you can put one special one in each one of your shipments. And then you grow into producing small lots of certain products. And those are the wines or ciders that you're going to put into your club eventually, because they want what they can't get in the winery or the cidery. They don't want the things that they can get. They want something that's special. So that's important. That's a big component. And I have a lot of places that are graduating into that because they only have a certain amount of product they produce.
That's a really important for people to keep in mind that, we're not like I don't think it works well when it's just a sheer, hey, I get a discount for this.
Yes.
Anticipate drinking, when it comes to beer, 3 case, or 4 case equivalents of beer over the course of a year. I know which brands I like. I'm just going to keep drinking the flagships. I'll get them at the equivalent of 15% off. Okay, some people might
Yeah.
do that, but I don't think that people really want to just prepay for a discount on a product, that sort of like hotel where you pay in advance and you lock in your rate. That's not as exciting for people. So
Yeah.
thinking about, hey, if you get access to something limited, and that could be you just pull something off, you rest it in a barrel, and then you package that
Yes.
specialty, or even if it's you don't have the capacity on that, you could fill in a growler or a crowler machine for them if they come to
Yeah.
the pickups. I know even some places that have done built it into events where at the start of every new year, they pick okay, well, we have this beer, this high gravity beer that we're going to age in barrels. You're going to help us pick what barrel we're going to put it in.
Yeah.
Or we're going
Yes.
to do a special members only blend, and you're going to come for a
Yes.
blending day.
Yeah.
And it becomes an event that then gets built into the product. And
Yeah.
it's a little self-reinforcing. It becomes participatory. People feel excited about it. They get to take the photos. They feel like they're a part of it. So thinking about the ways that you can
Yes.
bake that into both the operations and your events. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And just to continue with that, for instance, cideries and breweries that have only kegged products that you can only get if you're at the brewery or the cidery, even just bottling that, because that's something that they can get somewhere else. If, in other words, they have to go in to get the keg to get it. But if they have it in bottles, that's special for them. So there's different ways to do it where you're not having to immediately start producing exclusive product. You can use your current product and kind of graduate as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that unique format. And again, the nice part, if they're coming to you, it's not a distributed product that needs to go through formal full TTP label approval. It's, you still have to be on the right side of everything, but you're not doing anything all that new, right? If you have a small, hand filler instead of putting it through the machine for that limited run, great. But yeah, all of this comes down to what you're trying to accomplish and what options you have as a producer. So we're getting close. I have sort of one more question, then we'll start moving to wrap things up. Membership clubs, I think another really important value that people sometimes forget. They're really locked in on, hey, we've got this cash in advance, we've got really good members, like that connection. I think there's also a lot of opportunities for improvement for the company via the membership. So these are people who are really attached to your company. How can you use your membership club enrollees to kind of get that feedback and improve as a company overall?
I mean, for instance, when you have you're really going to rely on this membership. It almost can become your test bed in some things. You're making a specific wine or a cider or a brew, and you can ask them for advice. When you include them in your trials or, how you're producing something that really makes them feel good, they can say, yeah, we like it, but it would be nice if it was, tasted a little bit different. They also are people that come in all the time. They might see brand new sign or a brand new, decoration, and they're going to tell you, that looks silly, or they're going to be very vocal with you because they almost feel like they're part of your team. So it can absolutely benefit you because they care. They actually care about everything you're producing, everything you're doing, and they want to show it off to people. So they almost become like your little marketing research team. I've seen it many, many times. And it's all good, constructive criticism. It's nothing bad. They're there with you. So include them. Maybe you put a new, it's kind of a silly thing, but I do remember this one situation. There was a new statue that was put into this place, and they almost had a little viewing party of the statue. And it became, oh, I like it. Oh my gosh, that's kind of weird looking. It became almost like a little event, just that
Mhm.
in itself. And a lot of people came out for it.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like not just product, but everything else, right? You know,
Mhm.
they get the opportunity. These are people who are bought in, so they are going to be, you know, intimately aware of your business. They're going to have feeling. They're, you know, they're kind of halfway between a customer and a team member in some ways. And the nice part is they're because they're getting some additional value out of it, and it's a small group that you can kind of have that high touch with. You can feel them out. They're going to be a little bit more forgiving than the general populace. So if you say like, hey, we have a pilot version of something that we want to release next year, give us your feedback. You know, you have the opportunity for continuous improvement here. Make it easy for them. They're going to feel like, oh, well, I weighed in on this and they changed the colors of the label for the next year.
Yeah, right.
Like they're going to feel like, wow, I got to
Yeah,
be part of this. So
they like it. They love it.
so I have, I think, one more online question that came in that I think we can probably answer. The question was, we're looking at starting our club before our brewery opens by using crowdfunding. What would be a good way to offer that and roll that into a subscription? First of all, I'll say absolutely be careful about, you know, having any product that is going out to customers before you have any licensing. So make sure that you're covered on that front. You don't want to be dinged
Yeah.
for that. Any other thoughts on sort of pre-formal launch aspect of
Yeah,
that?
I mean, you know, I don't see anything wrong with, again, I'm not an attorney, so I can't
Mhm.
answer everything, but you know, I think that if you know, the first quarter of your club or the first shipment of your club, you almost get like you're granted a membership. It's up to you how much you want to give away. Do you want to give a year's worth away? Do you want to be, I know some places do founders clubs,
Mhm.
so you can be an initial founder. And I think that that's a really cool idea. And those are people that kind of helped you get started. And then you can have a special club just for them with special perks.
Mhm.
That I think is pretty successful.
Yeah.
Having their own separate club.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, these are people who are there from the beginning. They feel bought in. And
Yep.
I know that, you know, people do sometimes, hey, give away their home-based product. They're giving it away. You can't really sell it, but
Right.
give the option for that. Those people can have discounts when you get to operational, and anything you do
Exactly.
to get people on board early. So
Yes.
I feel like we could keep going on and on, Janine, but I know we've taken an hour of your time and really appreciate
I
your.
appreciate the opportunity.
So yeah, everyone, if you ever want to talk to Janine, her company Aquino Baron is very easy to find, but really appreciate your time and thank you all for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
I would like to thank Janine and Chris also for this informative webinar today. And I would like to thank everyone for attending. You will receive an email with a link to the recording. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. These resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we hope to see you at our next session. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.